All right. Well, welcome everyone to episode 3 of the Beer and Skittles podcast. Uh, this week we have a couple movie reviews, a few more than we did last week. Not so many trailers, and actually some music stuff to at the end. So the first thing I want to start with though this week is Hogwarts Legacy. We ran a bit long last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. Hogwarts Legacy is a brand new game, PlayStation exclusive that's coming out holiday this year.
Yeah, I believe so.
Um, it was announced last year, and we didn't really get any gameplay of it though. It was just this announcement, and the whole story takes place before all of the events we've seen within the movies and even in the books. Um, takes place at Hogwarts. You are a transfer student. They just showed off in Sony's last state of play a ton of gameplay. You're a transfer student. You get to create your character, and it's like this huge RPG game that takes you within the school and a deeper look into the school than I think we've ever gotten before. You get to pick your school and go through all the common rooms, and honestly, I think it's a game that I'm going to spend like 100 hours on.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you already know this. I'm sure the people listening don't. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. I think there's other series that might be better, but I've seen all the movies from the original saga to the Fantastic Beasts movies. I know a little bit about the lore and everything because of people around me that have told me about it. However, I actually am excited for the game. It's a concept that I've been wishing to be adapted by other games for a long time. Like I know I've wanted a similar situation from like a game like Kingdom Hearts, where you're like creating your own Keyblade wielders, stuff like that, and getting into
Yeah.
storylines and such. You know, something that I've requested from a lot of other series for a long time. So I think it's a really cool concept. They dropped, I think it was like 14 minutes worth of gameplay,
14 minutes worth of
which is
gameplay.
which is a lot. That is actually a lot, especially for a first drop to have 14 minutes. Um, but it looks amazing, and even as a non Harry Potter fan, I think I would love to play that game. My only concern with it, I think, is going to be how it plays out. So with the fact that you're using magic is always kind of a tricky thing to bring into games because it's not like you're fighting. It's not like you're using a weapon where you're button mashing or you're using combinations of buttons to figure it out. Um, so there's different ways to approach it, but I hope it does play more like a Kingdom Hearts, where you have your initial actions through buttons, but you also have a menu list that you can quick scan through to get different magical abilities, like how they do with fire and such. Um, Not more like Final Fantasy 13, where
Yeah.
everything is just menu items and it's a very boring way to play a game.
I think there's going to be, changing out your spells and doing attacks and stuff like that. You have a wand. That's one of the things that sets this game apart. It's not like you're just casting spells from your hands and everything. But even that can work. I mean, look, there's that new game that it just dropped for PlayStation, Ghostwire Tokyo. Um, and it's in first person point of view. So it looks very much like you're playing as like Doctor Strange in the MCU. You're seeing all the hand movements of him casting all these spells, and then you're just going out and there's no other weaponry. Um, but for Hogwarts, I'm super excited to get into it. Picking your school, going around the school and exploring it, as well as like there's so many other systems they announced for the game that I wasn't expecting, like beast taming, which I think is because of the success of the Fantastic Beast movies and people liking the creatures. So there's that. There's you're in school and there's not like there's a separate story you're just going off. You're still going to classes. You're making potions, you're learning, you're flying around. All of these things that you've seen in the movies are like you're actually doing it. It's like you're actually a part of the world, and it looks like there's going to be a ton of side quests. Like you're going to spend hours just like doing the side quests, and then you're like, oh, I was supposed to like do a mission. Like, where was I? I have to go stop the bad guy. On top of there also being like dungeons, they said, exploring these hidden parts of the school, which if you've watched the movies, if you've read the books, there's all these like parts of the school that are hidden. So it looks super interesting, and I can't wait. Even Hogsmeade, like, so you're not just stuck like strictly just in the school itself on the grounds, but going into the Forbidden Forest and going to Hogsmeade and everything like that. Super excited to just dive deeper into that world. And for anybody that's skeptical, I know that this story is being done completely separate from J.K. Rowling. So there's
Yeah,
that.
I think it's a great concept, and I think it should be adapted a lot more. Again, even as a not huge fan, I just love the concept of the game itself, to where you're putting somebody immersively into the world that has been built, which again I think is amazing. I would love to see it in other places, and I want justification that I am a Slytherin. Just I need someone official to say that I am. So I think it'll be cool, and I really want to actually get into that game a lot because again I feel like it's new, it's different, and I don't know why it is at the same time. Like
And it looks gorgeous.
it looks really good. Um, and like you said, the beast taming, it seems like they're really staying true to the source material and giving you as much things to fan over as you possibly could.
One thing I would like to see as like DLC or even in a future game, and I know people hate DLC. I hate it too. I hate having to spend more money after the fact, but
You do it anyway though.
I'll do it anyway, especially if the content is that's understandable. Like with what I'm about to say, I would love to see some of the other schools explored.
Mhm.
Especially if you're an exchange student, what school did you come from originally? And it's something we haven't seen yet. Even in the movies, they've been mentioned, but we haven't seen what the other schools look like. And that's also a great opportunity for the developer to break away. Because going in and making Hogwarts, people already have an idea of what it looks like because of the movies, because of the books. We've had these descriptions. We know what's going on there. But you can go and make these other schools, the one in Japan, the one in Brazil, and the design is really, you can do whatever you want at that point, because nobody has any expectations of like, oh, this is what it has to look like, this is what you have to put that in there. And I would 100% pay for that extra content.
Yeah, and that's also an interesting thing that once they build that world, it creates opportunity for other sources of media to use it. Because once they see the
Yep.
success of something, then that gives them the opportunity. Like in Fantastic Beasts, we got to see United States. While we didn't obviously get to
Yep.
see the school and everything, we got the U.S. We got outside of England, and outside of that part of Hogwarts, and got to see wizarding in other places. And it was an immense hit. And I think people would love to see the wizarding world in other places, how it operates. Right now, you just kind of know the big wizards in London, but I would love to see if there's versions of them in other places. Like I
100%.
I get there's like Gandalf and all this, and Voldemort is always in. He originates there, but is there
Stop
other
it.
big Yeah, no, don't say his name.
No, 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 not that. I have to call you out on the fact that you just said Gandalf.
Oh, you fucked me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
No, I
did.
have to do it. I
I
have to
did.
do it. Because if I didn't call you out, somebody would call me out for not having corrected you. You 100% said Gandalf and Voldemort in the same sentence and kept it pushing but no. Yeah. Ye shall not pass.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not.
and
We're not.
it's
We're not.
that's my fault. Honestly, right before this, I was watching some TikToks about Lord of the Rings, which I'm a bigger fan of than Harry Potter. uh,
I mean, I guess they're both old and gray.
no, they look exactly the same.
They're the
Like,
same guy.
and,
Dumbledore and Gandalf are the same guy.
yeah, they
Don't
look the same. I didn't. No, they're not the
Do
same.
not disrespect Ian McKellen.
They have very different characterization.
Completely different.
Yeah, Dumbledore looks like he's high half the time.
Dumbledore's also like low key a jerk. He's a
Well,
huge jerk.
so I again I think I've more recently gotten to the Harry Potter mythos of all the background stuff because I didn't read the books. I saw the movies. Like as a movie buff, I saw the movies because they're big. But again, I wasn't into it enough to read the books. But I've had people explaining to me what's happening and what has happened and things that they haven't explored in the movies. And Dumbledore, like he's done some sketchy stuff. Like
Yeah.
he isn't like the pure one. Like he isn't like the same thing as like Yoda from Star Wars. Like there's a difference.
He's
there.
not a saint. He's not a
He's
saint.
not a saint.
At all. At
Um,
all.
So I've gotten into that too. So I've learned about it. So I was like, oh, okay. So and that's really what the new Fantastic Beast is going to explore too. So that's actually really interesting. They're gonna explore his past and all the things that he's done.
I'm so disinterested. I'm so
Why?
disinterested.
I know your opinions about the new Fantastic Beast movie, but I love the series so far. Again, I'm not huge into that, but I've gotten more into the Fantastic Beast movies than I have the actual original Harry Potter movies.
I really loved the last one.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know you hate not seeing Depp in the role. I know that's your big quarrel with it. And I agree with your points on that as well. I don't think he should have ever been disassociated. But we're not in the writers' rooms. We're not producers. So
I'm going to watch the movie regardless, but I am not going to be happy about it when I go in.
I'm going in with a negative mindset.
I am going in with a totally negative mindset. But speaking of a movie that I did go into with a positive mindset was Jujutsu Kaisen 0.
Yes, and we both just saw that it was an amazing movie. It was great, especially because when you're comparing it, I know we're also talking about Demon Slayer. And these are two very new animes, season 1 in season 2 going on season 2, and they've taken the community by storm. For them to come out at similar times and have such a great following, it feels like something we haven't seen in a while.
I mean, rightfully so. I will say Jujutsu Kaisen, now it's still in the theaters at the time of recording this. It is now the 10th highest grossing anime movie in the world with what was it, $156 million worldwide. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. And it's been out, it hasn't been out long. It hasn't been out long at all.
And here in the States, it's been out for a couple weeks. It's been out for a couple weeks. I saw it last Tuesday, so, and they came out the Friday before that, so
gotcha.
A little over a week.
I know shows are already starting to disappear for it, but again, when you're talking about the anime community, while there's a huge basis for it in the U.S., it isn't the biggest one. So you have to realize the numbers that
not yet, but
up.
It's getting bigger.
It gets bigger every day.
Every new anime release that we get in theaters, it seems like they're getting bigger releases. So.
Yeah, I think a huge success of anime and its revitalization is actually kind of through TikTok, because I've seen a lot of different cultures come back kind of because of TikTok, and it's gotten people interested into them. Anime being one of them. I know punk culture, which I've been a part of, has made a huge comeback. Some of that because of artists that have came out, and some of it because of just people listening to new things or seeing old things, and they're re-immersing themselves into the culture. In some points it can be annoying if you've been a long time fan, but honestly it's helped me get back into anime too. I was big into anime in high school. I kind of fell out of it, and because of some of the new great animes coming out, as well as the popularity, hearing about it on platforms, it got me back into it. So I'm super appreciative of it, and I'm glad that it is doing so well, because it's well deserved. It's very well deserved. But into Jujutsu Kaisen, we're probably going to be getting into spoilers. If you haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen yet, you might want to fast forward, because we are going to get into some of the story for it.
Yeah. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, Jujutsu Kaisen is a prequel to the anime. Um, takes place before season 1 even picks up. So if you go into this and you're like looking for Yuji and completely, different set of characters here. For the main character is completely different.
Your main three are different. Your main three aren't your main three
your
anymore. They're
your
not
main
there
three, Yuta, you'll meet later on in the story. You know, the rest of the characters you've met, they're the upperclassmen
yet.
when
Yeah,
you
I
start
believe
Jujutsu Kaisen.
your main characters are really the second years
Yeah,
in Yuji's
in
generation.
season 1,
But
exactly.
in this one, they are first years. So Yudo he's a first year with them, so he's in their class. He's in their class is when this story is taking place.
He's has a curse, and he himself, he's a special grade because of his curse, and he has it's all new to him, and so he's like jumped into this world really quick. And it's just, I think the story is handled so well. Even though you jump right into it, I think even if you didn't watch season 1, you could go into this movie and it explains the concepts and it explains everything you need to know. So if you really wanted to watch everything for Jujutsu Kaisen chronologically, I see no reason why you couldn't start with this movie and then go into season 1.
Yeah, the only thing that I'd say that watching it first takes away from is some of those like, oh my god moments. During the big battle scene at the end, you start seeing all the third and fourth years in the fight. You also see the professor when he finally takes off his tie, but because then you're like, oh, they're here because you haven't seen them the whole movie.
What might be cool about seeing it first is if you watch it first and then like you're seeing these characters, they're all in the background, and then you, like you said, you get the students from the other high school that are in that final battle.
Yeah.
And then if you start season 1, you're like, wait, where are all these other people? And then you don't meet them until like halfway through season 1. You're like, oh, this is who they are.
Yeah.
So you finally get that context.
Like, I know I love seeing Toto because I loved him in the first season. For you guys that don't remember, he's the really big guy that is obsessed with Yuji because he is
his bro.
Yeah, that's his brother. That's his brother right there. Just because he's the only person that gives him a fight. So I was super hyped when I saw him because I love seeing him in the actual first season. So I think it takes away from some of those moments. But yeah, it's a cohesive story that picks up from a point that even the people watching the show haven't seen. So you're never going to be lost if you just want to say, oh yeah, I'll watch it.
Yeah, and it gives you a little bit more background on all of the other characters. Gojo included. We're going to get more of his story later on. Just knowing from the manga, I know we're getting a lot more of his story in the next season and, after that. But the action sequences in this movie are awesome. And I love the growth, the arc. It's not a long movie by any means.
No.
But, Yuta goes through a full arc. He hasn't, from beginning to end, going from that weak, character. He just at the beginning, they get swallowed by the demon and the curse, and he doesn't know what to do. And the only reason he's not sick is because of his curse that makes him immune. And then next thing you know, he's carrying, the 2 kids and her out and trying to like get out and save them. And like that just starts him on that path of teach me I need to be stronger, which is not an unsimilar task.
Because even before that, you get into like the first scene you see him in is he's in the classroom. He's getting picked on. He's a weak kid. He doesn't, in all honesty, he doesn't want to be alive. He says that. He's like, I don't want to be here because...
Which is such a dark, like, point and, like, moment. Because even in the beginning, like, when Gojo comes, it's like, what is this? And, like, the way he does it is funny.
You make this in shop class?
Yeah, and, what it use this for, I tried to kill myself. And it's such a, I don't know, it feels so real, just like everything he's going through.
Yeah, because you can see like you find out throughout like what actually happened to him, but he just thinks that he is cursed and he will hurt anybody that comes around him.
Yeah.
And he has no explanation for it. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know like what is really going on, and he just doesn't want to live anymore. And he's like, when I couldn't, I said I'm going to put myself in isolation. He locked himself in a room for I don't know how long, because he said,
Yeah.
if people are going to get hurt being around me, I'm just not going to be around people ever. And then at the end, you get him in that big fight scene with Gato. And he's confident. He has friends. He's fighting for someone, something. He has a bigger purpose. He's not just going to lay down on the ground and die. He's going to fight for everything that he gained from going to Jujutsu High. And it's a great story.
That moment, the lesson that Gojo told him at the beginning of, yeah, you can stay alone, but you can stay here, but it's lonely.
Yeah.
And it's just, then you get to the end and he's willing to sacrifice himself, where he tells Rika that like, you can have me, you all of me, I'll sacrifice myself if you give me your full strength and your full power to help me win this fight. But in doing so, he actually breaks the curse. And I just think that arc is it's so beautiful and it's so well written. And I think that's what sets Jujutsu Kaisen like so high for me right now as an anime, is that like the fights are amazing. The fight sequences are awesome. The animation is great. It's got a classic like look to the animation, but the story is also like, it's deep and it's amazing.
Yeah. And I loved what we got from the characters that we've already established. Like for instance, we got a lot more from Gojo. We realized that he was friends with Gato, and he considers himself to have no friends now, even though it's weird because he's always the happy guy. Honestly, he's one of my favorite characters in like all of anime right now, because like he's so likable but yet also such a badass. But he's like, oh, that was my only friend. That's the only friend I ever had, and he's evil. So you get that backstory with him. You get a lot more from Maki, things that you already knew, but it goes further into detail with it. And I think it'll be interesting to see her and her arc once he comes back, because you obviously see that she had feelings for him, and he had feelings for her, because it even made Rika jealous. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works once he comes back, because for sure he's coming back in either
100%.
the next season or the season after.
100%. The other thing to note too, and I know it's going to get explained more, the villain of this movie, you see Geto, and you recognize him from the first season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not him. Yeah, and that's the thing that's going to get explained. Did you notice the key difference between the way he looked in this movie and he does in the anime in the first season?
Inform
the
me.
scar across his forehead.
Oh, okay.
It's not a tattoo; it's a scar.
Mm-hmm.
Something was done.
Yeah.
That's not him. It's his body, but it's not him.
Yeah.
And like, that's another big point. So yeah, it's a huge point, and it's a huge turning point too. Once we find out in the anime, which, depending on the length of season 2.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so I know we talked about, because not too long ago, another anime movie was released. Probably, I think, the biggest theatrical release of an anime.
It is the highest grossing anime movie in the world.
Yes, and that was Demon Slayer. So we kind of did, off camera, we did a compare and contrast of them. These are two animes that are very recent. They came out around the same time. Demon Slayer is on its second arc. Jujutsu Kaisen's about to get on its second arc. Both of them have had phenomenal first seasons. They kind of took the community by storm. And, they both had a movie drop with great releases. So, this is that big compare for them right now. And I think it's very interesting. And I want to talk about how we think they compare to each other. They're both amazing. There's no hiding the fact that they're both amazing shows. They're both amazing movies. But when it gets down to the brass tacks of it, let's just talk about the movie since we're talking about the movie. Which one do you think was better?
And I know we talked a little bit about this, but honestly, I think that I might go Demon Slayer.
Okay. Explain.
And I will say that the story arc, the complete arc of Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is amazing. But the ending to Demon Slayer put me so deep in my feels. Like, I wanted to cry in that movie theater. I might have shed a tear for the ending of that movie. And if you didn't, you're heartless.
I mean, I would say I dropped a tear for it, but it was when Ren Goku is talking about his brother and he's getting into how proud he is. Like
all of it, that whole
ending, like kind of that's I was gonna say monologue. That whole scene that they have together.
Yeah, but
emotional.
Even then, that like right after when the demon when he breaks his arm off and he runs, and Tanjiro throws his sword at him, and like just his whole speech of like, you coward, why is it we always have to fight on your terms? Why can't you fight us in the day? Because you can't, like full blown calling them out.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do it. You call us weak, but you can't even step out in the sunlight, bro. But it was such a heartbreaking moment because he knew like there was nothing he could do. And also the weakness that he felt, like they just fought, the top of the lower six in this movie, the main villain.
Yeah.
And then upper rank 3 shows up, and all of a sudden they realize we're not on this level. We're not even prepared for what comes next.
Well, I feel like it's a weird thing because when you leave off in season 1, it feels like they're on top of the world. I mean, they went through struggles.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that didn't make it through that fight, and they took out some high-powered demons at the end of the day, even though they have barely been trained. So, it's interesting, and then they come across somebody that not only they are helpless against, they're watching the fight saying, they're too fast. They are too powerful. I want to jump in to save Rengoku, but I physically can't. Like, I wouldn't even know where to jump in. So they're just astonished. Like, I am helpless. There's nothing I can do here to help him.
And I think that just goes to show that like the ranking of the lower 6, yeah, it was a struggle for them, but there is a huge difference in discrepancy between the lower 6 and the upper 6 ranked demons. And you see it immediately. I mean, even Rengoku, he struggled. Like, that fight, it cost him his life.
Yeah.
So there's that huge, and the ending just like it stuck with me that I was like, wow, this was so good. On top of, I absolutely love the animation style of Demon Slayer. The fight sequences are so beautiful, both in that movie and also in the show. It's the same studio that did the Fate series. It's just amazing. And this is their first major anime. This is the first shonen they've ever done. All of the others, like Fate series, is originally a video game. And they've done light novel stuff before, but this is their first shonen, and I think they're like knocking it out of the park with Demon Slayer.
100% they are, but I think in terms of the movie, I'm on the opposite side of the coin than you. I personally like Jujutsu Kaisen better. Demon Slayer was great. The numbers speak for themselves. But what I liked about Jujutsu Kaisen is that I feel like I got more. from as a complete story arc. You know, I got introduced to a new
Yeah,
character, and I got everything from him in one movie. Um, I thought that
that's
was
fair.
great. I got so much character development from it. And again, as we mentioned earlier, you didn't need to see the anime to understand and love this. I think to watch Demon Slayer, you would have
Yeah,
had to. And you know, it's the bonus that it was a prequel. But even then, like people can do prequels and things not make sense to you because they don't explain it because they assume you watch the show. I would have gotten everything. I wouldn't have had to see the show. And I think that was a true skill of when they made it that you know, it was understandable to everyone. The story arc was believable. I loved it. I got so much character development from characters that I already loved, you know, and it was great because I honestly went into the movie not knowing too much about it. And I picked up on it immediately. So I personally like Jujutsu Kaisen better. No disrespect to Demon Slayer or the movie.
I mean, but I don't even think it's disrespect to Demon Slayer. Like they're
No,
both so good.
they were
Um,
both so good. I just think it was the fact that I felt like I got more content out of Jujutsu Kaisen. While Demon Slayer, while I had the content, you know, the bad dreams, all of that, showing them kind of what their best possible situation is and their worst nightmare is. I feel like it was already things that I already knew about the characters. Um,
mm,
while I feel like I got something new from Jujutsu Kaisen and I got more content, while Demon Slayer had an amazing fight scene, but the entire thing was kind of a fight scene at the same time, which you know it's great. It was an amazing spectacle, but I'd rather see the content and the new content and the context come out, which is why I like Jujutsu Kaisen better.
I will say one of the things that I love about both movies is how integral they are to the anime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a prequel, and I guess it's going to come into play.
It
Yuta
will
is going to come back. This
100%.
story is going to be integral. The Demon Slayer movie is also, it picks up right after season one. It picks up at the ending of season one, and it leads directly into season two. I really love that they're so integral and so important. Unlike older animes and their movies where it's like, yeah, you could watch it
You don't
if
have
you
to.
want. It,
Yeah,
it's not necessary.
it's
It's
just a story. It might not even be canon. Like
exactly, exactly.
um
Whereas these are this is the next arc, or this was the prequel arc that led to everything.
Yeah. So
Uh,
right here, you know, we just talked about two of the biggest new animes to come out. So we were gonna take a minute and tell you guys what our favorite animes are of all time. Some of these things we might get crucified for, but it is our personal favorites. Not saying that they are the best. That's an entirely different discussion. Um,
I want to
but
preface this with I didn't want to rank mine. He told me I had to. Um, Also, my top animes, very much like my favorite films, they shift on my list depending on how recently I've watched that particular movie, or um, if I've seen a recent movie that I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing, and it needs to be on my top 10 list now, and I have to then shift things around. So this list is in no way set in stone
yeah,
before I get
and
crucified.
honestly, same same for me. I'm already gonna go into it saying that I do not have a big three on my list. I don't have anything from the big three on my list. Um, I don't always really get into them, nor do I always want to watch all of them, which is my bad, and yeah, I honestly should. But again, these are our personal favorites.
Should I start with number one?
No, we're gonna start with number 10. We're gonna start with number 10 because I also know I think number one is gonna be the only one that we're gonna agree upon.
Yeah. Do you
So
want to
what do you
start
got
with
at
your
number
10?
10? All right,
All
I'll
right.
start. At number 10, I have Dead Man Wonderland.
So I wrote Dead Man Wonderland not for my top 10 list, actually. I have a list that I want to talk about at the end of I have a couple of animes that deserve remakes. And Dead Man Wonderland is one of them.
See, there's a reason. So the reason that Dead Man Wonderland is not in my top 10, but it's number 10. Um, so Dead Man Wonderland is a very psychological, very gory, very, you know, it's out there. Not everybody knows about it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I wouldn't recommend that everybody watches it unless that's what they're into, but it is what I'm into, which is why it's on there. I don't think it's perfect by any standard, and I think it is levels above everything else on this list, but it's geared toward my audience, which is why, I loved it personally.
I love the story of Dead Man Wonderland. I love the main character. I love the concept of it. Their power system is awesome. My gripe with it is that it ends on a cliffhanger and never got a second season.
Yeah, and I hate that too. I hate that too. But again, I more liked it just for the content that it gave me. So you're number 10.
My number 10 is Samurai Champloo, which is for anybody who knows, the same creator of Cowboy Bebop. I love the series just because of the use of hip hop within it. It's hip hop and anime need to blend more often.
And I think they are
awesome.
actually. I really think that it's starting to come that way as you're seeing a lot of as anime is getting bigger, you're seeing a lot of more hip hop people make anime references in their music, and they're starting to do things with their music videos and stuff like that. So I think that's actually on its way. I think you're going to get a lot more of that. So at the number 9 spot, I have Soul Eater. I don't think many people can argue that Soul Eater is a great anime. I think it's great. I think most people would think it is. And if it wasn't for its ending, it would be higher on my list. However, the ending kind of ruins it for me.
Soul Eater is another one that the story is really good, and
it just doesn't finish.
There's a huge departure from the manga in the anime, and that's where the issue lies.
Yeah, because literally I was so invested in that show and I loved it until the final moments, and it ruined it for me. But I'm not gonna disgrace the entire show, which is why it's on here, because it kept me invested for so long. I can't give it too much crap for it. So, but fix the ending 1,000 times.
Similarly, my number 9, I hate the ending, and personally I feel like the final arc is unnecessary, and I think a lot of people agree.
I know
Death Note. The final arc is totally just like, and spoiler alert if you haven't watched Death Note, just cover your ears real quick. After L dies, that's it.
Yeah, that should have been
end the story.
End of story. 100%.
There was nobody you were going to bring in, especially for the last couple episodes of this arc, that I was going to attach myself to and root for them the way I rooted for L.
I think they could have done it. They could have, if they didn't just want to copy and paste L to make, what was it, N? I think his name was N. Yeah, because they just gave him a version. They gave me a version of L that gave me no emotional investment, because I went through, 40 episodes of Light and L and their dynamic just to get this little shit.
It just wasn't there. It just wasn't there.
There was no chemistry. He didn't intrigue me. The story didn't intrigue me. The ending was cool. But again, if he was going to get busted by anybody, I didn't want it from that kid, which is why I didn't like it.
But it doesn't change the fact that Death Note is one of the best animes out there. The story is amazing. And it's crazy that you sit there and you watch this and you root for Light, because he's the bad guy of the story. He's the antagonist. But you were sitting there and you're kind of rooting for him. Like, is he gonna do this? Is he gonna win?
Yeah.
Is honestly, Kira gonna take over the world?
2/3 of this anime is perfect. Literally perfect. It's but then it ruined it.
What do you got at 8?
At 8 is one that I'll probably get crap for. I know some people in the anime community don't like it because it's very mainstream and is one that people are kind of picking up on through Netflix and such. But Seven Deadly Sins is more, I guess, something for me. I was into anime a lot in high school. I got out of it. And Seven Deadly Sins kind of really brought me back into anime. Watching it was fun to watch. It gave me Bon, who is one of my favorite characters in anime. He's an amazing character.
Great character.
And they do have great characterization, but again, I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best anime out there, but it brought me back into anime, which is why I appreciate it so much and why I think it deserves my number 8 spot.
I do enjoy Seven Deadly Sins. It's not in my top 10 list, but I do really enjoy watching Seven Deadly Sins. My number 8 is people are going to want to attack me for it as well. Fairy Tail. But I'm sick of the Fairy Tail slander. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. We don't need this type of slander anymore. Fairy Tail is a shonen, and it is a good one at that. Natsu is an amazing character. He's funny. I don't understand. He's got all the same qualities y'all look for. Why are we hating on it? Why are we hating on it? I do really like Fairy Tail. I like the cast. It's just a lot of fun. I watch Fairy Tail, and it's a lot of fun for me. Just the crazy adventures and even just everybody in it. Similar to the way that they act in like Seven Deadly Sins. Like Meliodas is a pervert. He doesn't hide it. And then in Fairy Tail,
I think your equivalent, our number 8s are equivalent to where they might not be the best, but they are the most entertaining to us.
It's so entertaining. Like Gray, just rips his shirt off every chance he can in Fairy Tail, and it's just like what and then everybody yelling put your clothes back on. It's hilarious. It's a fun watch.
Okay, so then at my number 7, I have one that we were just talking about, Jujutsu Kaisen. It's very new, and I know it can take a turn for good or bad. I have no idea yet, but from what it's given me so far, it's amazing. And if it stays on the track that it's going, it is going to be mentioned with some of the best animes to ever been made. But time will tell. But for me personally, I love the story. Watching the movie made me love it even more. Because honestly, before I watched that movie, it might not have been on my list. It might have been just on the outside, but it got pushed up because of it. So they're doing great character building and great world building in this show. So I love it.
I'm going to get attacked for my number 7 because it's so low on my list. But again, I started this by saying my list changes. It shifts. So keep that in mind when I say that Attack on Titan is number 7 on my list.
That's a disagreement we have. It's a big disagreement that we have.
It made my top 10. The amount of anime that I've watched, the amount of anime that is out there, Attack on Titan is still in my top 10. Yeah, and it changes. It shifts.
And honestly, realistically, if we're not just talking about favorites, I think it is top 10, but not high top 10 when you're talking about the best animes to have been made, not just our personal favorites. So I guess that's reasonable. That is reasonable.
It's amazing, and I love the characters. It's super depressing. I wouldn't say it's an anime for everyone either. The animation is great, especially in the new seasons. Mappa has taken over doing the final seasons of Attack on Titan. They did the last seasons. It's the same studio that does Jujutsu Kaisen. The animation is amazing.
Yeah, and I love the use of pictures throughout, which we've talked about before. It's the shots for shots from the manga. I think it's a great callback, and it's honestly cool because then you have the monologues going over them. Cool concept for a great show.
And Levi is an amazing character. He's such a badass.
Top 10. Another top 10 for me.
Now, that's if we were doing a top 10 badass characters, Levi's top 5.
Dude, he had the Beast Titan scared of him. He has every Titan scared of him. Where they're literally there's only one man that can defeat us. One man. There's one man that can defeat them, and it's Levi.
And also, and this is putting my own business out there, Levi's my height, and so you got to stand a short king.
Yeah.
So, gotta love that too.
So, at number 6, which I think, again, I might get hate for, but is my oldest anime on here, I have Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
Cowboy Bebop is great. It's so funny. The characters are so relatable. It really speaks for the time that it came out. I mean, it feels like even though it's in space and it's somewhere totally different, I feel like I'm in a blast from the past just watching it. It's super
Yeah,
fun. The story amazing. Everything about that show I love. The ending's a little shaky for me, but and it isn't. I'm very picky about my animation as well, which is why I don't watch certain things. I'm very picky. Um, but I do think Cowboy Bebop holds up. I think Cowboy Bebop holds up very well.
I would agree. My number six, and for people who don't watch a lot of older anime, this is actually one that was hard to watch, hard to be able to watch for a long time because it wasn't on any streaming platform. It's currently on Netflix. My number six is Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's a classic anime, and it's also like the starting point for stories like Attack on Titan, like Death Note. It's a super dark story. It's super depressing, but it's so well written, and the animation is amazing. It's giant mech suits, and they're fighting these aliens, but the story is so much deeper than that,
Yeah, I think
and that's why I love it.
mecha animes get a lot more hate than they should.
And I love it. Sometimes it's no different from you watch shonen and you get these big giant fight sequences. It's like Dragon Ball, but it's giant robots instead of little people.
Yeah. Um, so now we are into our top fives. Top fives. These are the big hitters. At number five, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it because we already talked about it, but I had Death Note. Again, loved it. Watching this anime, I was like, is my favorite anime gonna get dethroned watching this? And 2/3 of the way through, I was convinced that it would be. Until
And then
that
that
last,
final arc happened.
yeah, the final arc happened and just set it right down to fifth place, and it's stayed there ever since.
My number five, and we don't got to spend too much time on it. We've talked about it. Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay,
Again,
so
it's
you
higher
have
on
it
my list,
higher than I have. Okay.
and it's so fresh in my brain. Having watched it recently and watching the movie, and the story in the manga is still ongoing, and I'm keeping up with that. I love the story. I love the characters. I'm so excited for season two. So yeah, as of right now, Jujutsu Kaisen ranks really high for me.
All right. Respectable. Respectable. So at number four is actually one that you have recommended to me. I wasn't sure of it at first. The art style was different, not usually in my preference, but it did really well. And the story's great. Devilman Crybaby, which I don't think is your most commercially successful anime. And it's another one where I don't think it's for everyone. There's a
Not
lot
at
of
all.
blood, gore, unique storytelling there. A lot of adult themes throughout. However, it was tackled beautifully in the art style. All the colors that they bring into the show. I mean, it's very two-dimensional looks, hand drawn, but they're throwing all these colors in while there's so much death and gore and demons, and
That's
it's
the thing. When I started that anime, and you had watched it more recently, but when that anime first came out, watching it, and I think I actually told you, the juxtaposition of how bright and neon that anime is
yeah,
with how dark that story is and depressing, it's almost like jarring that like you're watching the club sequence at the beginning and everybody
yeah,
starts getting mauled by demons and you're like, what is happening? And it's like just they're all neon and popping and they're in a club, so the strobe lights are going and everything. it, the music is loud and the bass is just going and you're like, what is happening right now? But it looks too bright and happy looking
yeah, and
for how dark it is.
it's not just the colors. It's almost kind of like a filter that they put over everything to where there's nothing really dark. You can see everything clear. All the
Yeah,
colors are kind of light or faded and they're like so you could see everything. You don't have too many dark tones in there, which I think it's a really cool thing.
I really love the story, and if you go back even further with how I said, Neon Genesis Evangelion had helped influence anime with the darker storylines and this depressing characters and storylines. Devilman Crybaby, Devilman the manga, is even older and was the blueprint for doing all of this and telling these darker stories. It really paved the way for something like Attack on Titan. I mean, the ending to Devilman is depressing. It's not happy at all.
Yeah.
It's super sad. Yeah.
So, you're number 4. What do you got?
Demon Slayer.
You got 2 new boys back to back.
Yeah. I really love the animation style of it. UFO Table is one of my favorite studios right now doing anime. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works is one of my favorite animes that they've done. That's when I first watched a series from them, and I fell in love with the art style immediately. And then I feel like they've just upped their game ever since, and Demon Slayer is like they're at the top of that.
Yeah, I was actually on the opposite of that for a bit, only because I was judging it straight from the trailers. If you look at the trailers, it's kind of like that first scene when his family dies, and they have like that 3-dimensional art style to it, and it's really you can tell. And I don't love that from anime, so I backed off from watching it for a while until so many people were just like, "You have to watch it, you have to watch it." So
they do such a great job of blending the 2D,
yeah, that's what
with
it is,
the 3D. Yeah.
So watching the 3D in the trailer, I was like, it turns me off to see 3D in anime. But the way that they fused it was actually really good. So I'm glad that people convinced me to watch it.
What do you got at number 3?
Okay, at number 3, controversial one. However,
the rest of yours are all going to be controversial.
No, not controversial. Not controversial. This
Your
one
next
is
2.
No, I don't think so. I think my top 2 are solid. But I have the Promise Neverland. Now, I just want to tell you guys that I watched the first season and I had the same thought that I did during Death Note, where I love something that is psychological. I love something that doesn't have to focus on action and tells a great story, because a lot of anime focuses, I think, too much on action. So I love to see a story like this. I did not see the second season because of so many bad reviews. I didn't want it to be ruined for me. But the Promised Neverland season 1 reminded me so much of Death Note, and the fact of the intelligence of the characters, some of the arcs that they're going through, and again, that it has you glued to the screen without there being a punch thrown, which I think is amazing, and is hard to do in anime. So Promised Neverland takes my number 3 spot. But again, I haven't seen season 2, so don't judge me on season 2, just judge me on season 1, because I will probably never see season 2.
It's not good.
It's not good, I hear.
My number 3 is Naruto.
Which makes sense. I don't think anybody's going to argue you on
And
Naruto.
I don't think I really need to explain why I have Naruto in my top 3.
If you don't know about Naruto, you should have skipped this entire segment. But so at my number 2 spot, I won't get into it too much. We already talked about it. But Attack on Titan. I love Attack on Titan. I am, again, very much into that. I love gore, and I love the very, in-depth look when it comes to gore. I think gore is an art form when it comes to television and when it comes to animation and such, and it's hard to pull off tastefully. I really do think that Attack on Titan does a great job of it. And I love it. The show has me glued all the time. I love the characters. They go through so many great arcs. And like we said earlier, Levi, one of the biggest badasses in anime. So yeah, Attack on Titan, that was, I want to say, the first anime that I saw with a lot of gore in it. And, that's my thing. So it's high up on my list for also more personal reasons of it helped me get into anime.
That's fair. All of that. My number 2, people are going to want to attack me. And unlike my preface for Fairy Tail, I don't care. I just want it to be known. I don't care if you want to attack me. I will defend this anime till I'm in my grave.
Oh God.
My Hero Academia is at number 2 for me, and I almost put it at number 1.
I'm glad you didn't.
I love the characters. Deku is an amazing main character. If anybody has only ever watched the first season, you're like, Deku's a crybaby. Well, watch more of it because he's not. Bakugo's an amazing character. Todoroki's an amazing character. It's not just like him as the main character, that it's the whole supporting cast. All of them feel important. All of them are integral. And then also, it's superheroes, but in anime form. Like there's so many elements to it that I love. The story is really good, and I'll fight anybody over it.
Yeah, personally not there for me, but I won't argue with it for argue on you for that. However, at the number 1 spot, I think it's the only agreement that we have on our lists. And I'm gonna start this off by saying I think this is the perfect starter anime. To me, it is a near perfect anime, and I think it is. If I'm going to recommend anybody to start watching anime, I'm going to give you this one first, and it's Fullmetal Alchemist.
This is the anime. Yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is the anime that I recommend to people when they say, "Hey, I'm getting into anime. What do I watch?" Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
That's actually how you got me into anime. A long time ago.
Fullmetal Alchemist.
A long time ago, you told me watch Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and it did not disappoint. And honestly, again, years later, it's still my number 1. Because not only is it good starter anime to get you involved, it's just a great anime. It brings out a lot of emotion. It has great character development. The use of alchemy and the fight scenes are amazing. It holds up, and on it, I love the art style. I love that like late 2000s, early 2010s art style for anime. It's like my favorite kind of period for it. So I think everything on that show holds up.
I think I love the story so much, and I recommend it to people to start because it really gives you everything. The fight sequences are amazing. They're so good. It's funny. It's also serious. It knows when to be serious, and those moments don't pull you out of it. The laughs don't pull you out either. After an emotional sequence in Full Metal, and then you get somebody that comes in and makes a joke, it doesn't pull you out. It almost feels good. It's that lightness that you need because you just bawled your eyes out after watching this episode.
I mean, it has one of the like saddest scenes in all of anime, and you know what I'm talking about.
100%. Yeah. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that scene, and that alone just goes to show how good this is. If everybody knows what you're talking about without even having to say it.
Yeah.
And that's why I recommend this anime. It's gonna make you laugh. It's gonna make you cry. You're gonna cheer. The fight sequences are amazing. Mustangs fight against Lust.
Yeah.
At the end is just like I still watch that scene with like my eyes like wide open, like I can't believe like just the simple thing of just you're just watching like what is happening. Yeah. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
So getting away from anime, a first for us on the show is we're going to be reviewing some music. If you don't know, movies aren't the only thing that we know about. We love getting into music. We fans of all different types of genres of music. And about a week ago from when this was airing, there was a huge day for music last Thursday. There was a lot of things dropping, and probably one of the biggest days so far this year. And so we got a new album from Denzel Curry. If you're a hip hop fan, to me, he's one of the better artists to come out since I believe 2015. I'm a huge fan of his, and I loved this album that came out. I thought it was great. It's called Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. Great album. It shows progression of him as an artist. Um, I was talking to you about this earlier, to where Denzel felt like a combination of young Tyler and Run the Jewels, if they had a like that new age trap flavor to them. Because he has those nice simple hook beats, those simple hooks that is easy to go along to, as well as those really hard hitting beats. But he has a lot of that attitude that Tyler had throughout his raps, while still having the bars and references that Run the Jewels likes to throw out at you constantly. Um, Love him as an artist, but in this album, you get to see him evolve into more of the artistry of the music. Things are getting more prolific. He's telling more of a story, and he's calmer throughout, and you're getting more of that new Tyler kind of sound where it's more focused on the art, not the bars, which I think is great.
So I will say this is the first album I've listened to of Denzel. Um, like listened to all the way through, just because there's so much content out there, and finding a way to consume everything is hard. But this being my first album introduced to him, and you were showing me other songs, some of his other stuff where it is a lot faster, and I really like this album. And just listening to it, the production of it, the beats and the sound reminded me of Logic's early albums, like Under Pressure. It gave me like an older feel. Like you said, things are a little bit more slowed down. His style is in no way am I comparing him to Logic. It's strictly just the production of it. Listening to the raps, I got a more Vic Mensa feel.
Yeah,
Like when I listened to the autobiography of him telling these stories, and uh, it. So I have to listen to this album again from start to finish, but just from the top, I was like, I really like this sound, and I feel like it's chill music, like the same way I would throw on Cuddy and just hang out.
yeah, and that's what I say. It's an evolution of his character. Because again, I showed you some of his other music from beforehand, and he's very out there. There's hard hitting beats. He's going in with his flow. He's hitting punchlines hard. And in this, it's more storytelling. It's more calm. It's a different stage of his career, and I think I love that. I know we've talked about this before. We love progression from artists. We
Yeah,
think an artist that does the same thing 1,000 times isn't a good artist. Whether their change is good or bad, I love to see change, because it shows
we
that you're
grow
not
as
a one
people.
trick pony. Yeah, we grow as
Yeah.
people, so you grow as an artist. Um,
Yep.
Other news within music, Nigo dropped an album. For those of you guys who do not know, Nigo was a member of the Teriyaki Boys.
He
And
was
for
their
those of
DJ.
Yes, he was their DJ. For those of you that may not remember the name Teriyaki Boys, if you've ever seen Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, he did the song. They did the song Tokyo Drift as well. They have been involved in a lot of other American pop culture, which is big because they are a Japanese group and they have made a huge mark in the U.S., which is, especially back then, was pretty unheard of. So they're big names in hip hop. So you know, Nigo dropped an album producing.
Can we real quick just mention that like Fast and Furious has such hard hitting soundtracks?
Oh no, they do for sure. Like there's no denying that.
As ridiculous as those movies have gotten, the music has been good.
No, yeah, they don't disappoint on the music. Um, but Nigo, honestly, I had to do a double take when I heard his name. I had to make sure, like, wait, is this the guy that we're talking about here? Because Teriyaki Boys haven't really been active for a long time, nor do I honestly know them all by name, which is sad. I should, but I don't. Um, However, he has amazing features on this. He was just producing this album. He does not get on any tracks at all. Um, However, he has great features from ASAP Rocky, which I think is huge because we haven't heard from him at all in a long time.
And he's
Um,
having a baby.
yeah, he is having a baby with Rihanna, so props to him. Um,
Yeah.
but
He's busy. He's a busy
yeah,
guy.
he is. But I also think that speaks to who Nigo is as an artist. Even though you don't recognize the name, people are like, I want to hop on that track because in the industry, people respect him.
I gotta say, listening to this album right when I started it, Lost and Found Freestyle. I
Oh,
love that song.
amazing, amazing.
And I
It's
love
ASAP and Tyler on that song,
and
which is even
Tyler.
better.
And they've worked together before.
Yeah,
When the beat changes for Tyler's verse, I lost it listening into the car in the car. I was like, oh, this that was such a dope thing where it felt tailored to the artist.
yeah, and the whole album feels like that. Like if you're talking about a big name producer like DJ Khaled, I feel like every artist he makes a beat and tells an artist to hop on the track, and everything feels like a DJ Khaled beat. On this album, it feels like he picked his artists and special tailored his beats to those artists. Like there is one song, Want It Bad with Kid Cudi. That is a Cudi beat. For sure that is a Cudi beat. There's a song Remember with Pop Smoke. That is a Pop Smoke beat. And everybody knows the difference between Pop Smoke and Kid Cudi. So the versatility that Nigo is going through, even though it might not seem like an album that's sewn together well, it works because
it still feels like it's part of the same album though.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It's because he still always has his own taste in there. So he is Japanese. He's part of the Teriyaki Boys. If you go back, listen to their old beats, he was the one doing them. And he has that flavor in there. A lot of that 2000s Japanese sound that he was using, and a lot of that, little of that old school hip hop that Teriyaki Boys liked is in there. But it's also mixed together with each individual artist's like production, which I think is amazing.
Even the song Functional Addict with Pharrell on it. Pharrell's perfect for that beat. He was perfect for that song.
Yeah. And let's not to mention, it is Pharrell and Gunna. Who mashes those two together? I don't know, but it worked. It worked, and that's all I'm concerned about it. So, for those of you that, didn't know Nigo before or didn't know that he dropped an album, go check it out. Highly recommend. I think not only is this a great album, it's going to age well. We also had, I know, one of my personal favorite artists dropped a single, which was highly anticipated. Chance the Rapper, Child of God, dropped a single. And it was anticipated because obviously his last album, well, technically like his first official album, when it dropped, didn't get the best reviews. It wasn't like his other projects. So people wanted to see how he was going to recover from it. Was he about to do another hot shower, or was he going to get back into his roots? And I think he got back into his roots with this one.
It's a really good song.
It reminds me a lot of what he was doing on 10 Day. It brought me back to his first successful mixtape. And it was great. I'm glad to see him get back into that because I hate to see somebody fall off because they're trying to be mainstream and do what people want rather than being themselves. And I know that what I've gotten from 10 Days, Acid Rap, and Coloring Book is who Chance is. And I don't think that
he's super talented, and I think what made him successful was that he was unique and he was different and he wasn't mainstream. Yeah. And he doesn't have to be in order to work.
No, and I think that album kind of proved it to him because when he brought on all those features from artists that you wouldn't really see him with, and he was bringing in those beats, and you didn't get any of that, that Christian, gospel things that he loves to throw in there, it didn't feel like him, and it didn't work. And I'm glad that he saw that, and he's like, you know what, let's just go back to it. So I hope that everything he drops after that is more like the single that he dropped.
Yeah. Outside of new releases as well, Daddy Yankee has announced he's retiring.
Yeah,
we're getting one last album and a tour.
Big news, which is big news. For those of you guys that don't know or can't tell, me and David, we're Puerto Rican. We grew up Puerto Rican households. Daddy Yankee played a lot. He's a huge artist within that scene. And he's been around for forever. It feels like he's been around for forever. So that's huge news that he's retiring. And I hope.
Alexis has already texted me and said, So make sure you're free because we're going to see Daddy Yankee, and you better know all the words. And I was like, let's look at the ticket price because I know it's his
Yeah, it's
last
gonna be
tour. It's gonna be
crazy.
insane.
It's gonna be
Be
insane.
insane.
But yeah, big news.
The
I hope I hope he does well in whatever his next endeavors are in life.
yeah. I mean, well deserved. Well deserved. He's been in the industry a long time. He's been doing this a long time. Retirement it happens eventually.
Yeah.
The only other music news that I had for anybody listening that is into K-pop, which is growing in popularity every day, is Stray Kids dropped an album. Absolutely love this group. I sent you their music video. Um, they dropped a music video as well just a couple days ago. The album is awesome. Venom is a great song. Maniac is awesome. I actually really love Freeze. It has this like techno beat to it, and the production value that's going into this album, and the fact that and even their music video is insane. It's like watching a movie. But like there's so many members, there's so many moving parts to like just having a large boy band. Like like there's a lot. Like even doing a music video with that many people that are like a part of the song and everything. Because let me see, this album it's only 7 songs, but there's a lot that goes into you're writing lyrics for all of these people.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you how many people are in that group.
But it's so good, and each one of them is so distinct and unique, and they work together so well. I highly recommend watching the music videos for Venom and Maniac. So dope.
Yeah. I'm not as big into K-pop as you are, but I hear some of the songs and like I don't know the words to them. However, they have great production on them. They do have a lot of great beats, and like they're easy to have fun to and easy to dance to. So, maybe with some of your guidance, I'll get more into it. But
I think what I love about them is they're performers, because it's not easy to sing and dance at the same time. Doing all of this together is a lot. It's the reason why Beyonce is as successful as she is. It's not just the fact that her voice is amazing. She puts on a show.
Yeah. And
she's
artists
a performer.
that are renowned for that, like Prince, Bruno Mars, people that just
Michael
live
Jackson
to perform. Yeah, to perform.
It's not just it, and there's nothing wrong with getting up there and belting out this ballad. That's beautiful too. Adele gets up on stage, she sings. She doesn't move much. She stands there and she sings, and that there's power in her voice. You can hear it. It's awesome. But there's something to say for like somebody that gets up there and puts on this entire performance and show all at the same time. I couldn't do it. It's a lot. It's a lot of hard work.
Well, that is everything that we have for you guys today on this episode. We are going to tell you right now that we know the Oscars just happened, and as a pop culture podcast, it is our duty to report on the Oscars. But we are out of time here. So if you want to see more of our content and you want to hear what we had to say about the Oscars, go check out our TikTok page, Beer N, the letter N, Skittles, DOPC on TikTok. Go check it out. We will be doing a lot of things about the Oscars on TikTok, as well as, by the time this drops, Moon Knight, a show on Disney Plus, a Marvel show on Disney Plus, will be dropping. So we'll be having content about that as well on TikTok. So to be sure to go like, subscribe on our TikTok, and watch those, because we'll be dropping a lot more content there now.
Yeah, if you're seeing our posts on our Instagram, the link tree is in the bio to get to this podcast on YouTube, or if you're just listening to it on Spotify or Apple Music, that link tree will also get you to the TikTok, where we're trying to cover even more topics, where we're doing this weekly and trying to save you some time with listening. We're going to try and cover a little more topics on the TikTok as well.
Yeah. So when you want the really current news, when you want the really current news, go look at our TikTok. So yeah, you don't have to wait until we record, edit, and drop.
Yeah.
However, on that note, thank you for listening or watching. This has been the 3rd episode of Beer and Skittles. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
We appreciate you. Thank you.